5. Timeless strategies to cultivate inner strength. What if the secret to unshakable inner strength wasn't about trying to control every part of your life, but about mastering your response to it? I used to feel completely overwhelmed by stress and the constant pressure to succeed. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of expectations, just struggling to find my footing in a world that never seems to slow down. That anxiety was like a low hum beneath everything I did, a constant reminder of how fragile I felt. And in that quiet desperation, I turned not to some modern hack, but to ancient wisdom. So, I tried a radical experiment for 30 days. I decided to apply 5 timeless Stoic strategies to my modern life, just to see if these 2 zero-year-old ideas could actually forge the kind of inner strength the philosophers promised. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 strategies that made the biggest difference. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a practical guide. We're going to explore how to define inner strength not as being immune to challenges, but as the ability to respond with clarity, courage, and virtue, no matter what storm you're facing. What I discovered is that we often suffer more from trying to control what's uncontrollable than from the events themselves. The real power, the real strength, lies in our choices, our judgments, and our responses. These 5 strategies are tools you can start using today, and each one comes with a small, practical exercise to help you turn ancient philosophy into modern practice. Strategy 1. The dichotomy of control plus CBT reframing. All right, the first and most foundational strategy is what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. It's a beautifully simple, yet profoundly transformative idea. The philosopher Epictetus, who was born a slave and rose to become one of the most respected teachers in the Roman Empire, put it this way: some things are within our power, while others are not. What's in our power? Our opinions, our motivations, our desires, basically. Anything that is our own doing. What's not in our power? Our body, our property, our reputation, and anything that isn't our own doing. Think about how much of our modern stress comes from getting this principle backward. We get furious in traffic jams we can't control. We get anxious about what a colleague thinks of us, which is entirely up to them. We lose sleep over past mistakes that are forever set in stone. The Stoics would say this is a recipe for misery, because you're constantly fighting reality itself. True inner strength begins the moment you learn to ruthlessly distinguish between what you can influence and what you absolutely cannot. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at the time, captured this perfectly in his private journal, Meditations. He constantly reminded himself of the idea that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't about being passive or giving up. It's about being precise. It's about saving your most valuable resources, your time, your energy, your focus, for the one arena where you can actually make a difference, your own mind and your own actions. So, how do we actually apply this in a world of constant notifications and external pressures? We can blend it with a powerful tool from modern psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT is built on the very Stoic idea that our feelings aren't caused directly by events, but by our thoughts and interpretations about those events. So here's a small exercise you can try. The 3-column note. The next time you feel a wave of stress, anger, or anxiety, just grab a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Make 3 columns. In the first column, event, write down the external trigger, just the facts. For example, I received critical feedback on a project. In the second column, unhelpful thought, write down your immediate gut reaction. It might be something like, My boss thinks I'm incompetent. I'm definitely going to get fired. This is a complete disaster. Notice how that thought is filled with catastrophic predictions about things you don't actually control. Now, for the third column, Stoic, CBT reframe. This is where you consciously pull your focus back to what is in your control. You might write, "My judgment that this is a disaster is in my control." The feedback itself is just information. I can't control my boss's final opinion, but I can control my response. I can choose to review the feedback calmly, learn from it, and make a plan to improve the project. My effort and my attitude are mine to command. Practicing this simple exercise does something remarkable. It creates a tiny bit of space between the trigger and your response. It shifts you from feeling like a victim of circumstance to being an architect of your own character. You stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable and start investing it in becoming better, stronger, and more resilient. This is the first pillar of inner strength, knowing where your power truly lies. Strategy 2. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum, plus mindfulness. The second strategy sounds a little counterintuitive, but it's one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic arsenal for building resilience. Premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils. We can just call it negative visualization. Now, this isn't about being a pessimist or dwelling on dark thoughts. It's a strategic, deliberate practice designed to strip future challenges of their power, to shock and throw you off balance. The philosopher Seneca, who dealt with political exile and constant threats, was a huge advocate for this. He advised that we should regularly and calmly think about the things that could go wrong. We could lose our job, our health could decline, a relationship could end. By mentally walking through these potential setbacks, we accomplish two things. First, we build a kind of psychological immunity. When you've already imagined a scenario, if it actually happens, it doesn't arrive as a terrifying shock. It arrives as a familiar problem you're more prepared to handle. Second, and maybe more importantly, it makes you incredibly grateful for what you have right now. When you truly consider what it would be like to lose something, you appreciate its presence in your life so much more. But just thinking about bad things can feel a lot like worrying. To make it a tool for strength instead of anxiety, we need to combine it with modern mindfulness. At its core, mindfulness is about meeting the present moment with non-judgmental awareness. When we pair it with premeditatio malorum, the exercise becomes a powerful blend of preparation and presence. Here's a micro-exercise for this. The 2-minute resilience rehearsal. Sometime in your day, maybe before a challenging meeting or a difficult conversation, just take 2 minutes. Close your eyes. First, visualize a likely obstacle. Don't imagine a full-blown apocalypse. Think of something plausible. Maybe the client will reject your proposal. Maybe the conversation will get tense. See it unfold in your mind. Let yourself feel that initial sting of disappointment or frustration. Now, here's the crucial second step. Script a calm, value-aligned response. See yourself taking a slow, deep breath. See yourself listening without getting defensive. See yourself responding with clarity and courage, not just reacting. You aren't rehearsing the negative event, you're rehearsing your virtuous response to it. Finally, when you open your eyes, take one single, mindful breath before you step into that situation. This practice completely changes the game. Fear and anxiety thrive on the unknown. This exercise introduces familiarity. You've been here before. You've already practiced how to handle it with grace. It's like Seneca said, life's challenges are the forge where we build our greatest strengths. By anticipating adversity, you aren't inviting it, you are preparing for it. You've lowered the potential for shock and improved your capacity for composure, which is a cornerstone of true inner strength. If you're finding these strategies valuable and want to keep exploring ancient wisdom for modern problems, take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We're building a community dedicated to growth and philosophical living, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Strategy 3. Practice virtue as your North Star. The third strategy shifts our focus from how we handle external events to the very core of our internal compass, practicing virtue as your North Star. For the Stoics, the ultimate goal of life wasn't happiness, wealth, or success as we usually think of them. The ultimate goal was to live a life of virtue. Everything else was secondary. The 4 cardinal Stoic virtues are: wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly and make good judgments; courage, not the absence of fear, but acting rightly in the face of it; justice, treating others with fairness and kindness; and temperance, which is all about moderation and self-control, mastering our desires instead of being a slave to them. Living a life guided by virtue gives you an unshakable foundation for inner strength, because it makes your self-worth independent of what happens outside of you. Think about it. If your sense of self is tied to your job title, your bank account, or how many likes you get on a photo, you're building your house on sand. Those things are fickle and mostly outside of your control. They can be taken away in an instant. But your character, your commitment to acting with courage, your dedication to being a fair person, no one can take that from you. That is yours and yours alone. This brings to mind a powerful directive Marcus Aurelius gave himself. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. It's about embodying your principles, not just talking about them. When virtue becomes your internal scorecard, the opinions of others and the ups and downs of life start to lose their grip on you. You develop a sense of inner dignity and self-respect that is weatherproof. Here's an incredibly simple but transformative micro-exercise: the morning intention. Each morning, before you dive into the chaos of the day, just take 1 minute. Ask yourself, how can I practice a virtue today? Get specific. You might say, today, when I talk to that difficult colleague, I will practice temperance by listening patiently instead of reacting with anger. Or, today, when I feel the urge to procrastinate on my big project, I will practice courage by just tackling it for 25 minutes without distraction. Or maybe, today, I will practice justice by making sure I give credit to a teammate whose contribution might be overlooked. By setting this small, concrete intention, you're priming your brain to look for opportunities to be the person you want to be. You're no longer just reacting to your day. You're actively shaping your character through your day. Over time, these small, intentional acts of virtue compound. They build a kind of moral muscle memory. You start to act with integrity, not because you're thinking about it, but because it's becoming who you are. This is the source of a quiet, profound strength, the confidence that comes from knowing that, no matter what happens externally, you are living in line with your deepest values. That is a fortress that no storm can ever breach. Strategy 4. Voluntary discomfort plus discipline routines. Our fourth strategy is all about deliberately training your resilience through voluntary discomfort, combined with discipline routines. Our modern world is an engine of comfort. We have temperature-controlled homes, food delivered to our door, endless entertainment on tap. And while these things are wonderful, the Stoics would argue they come with a hidden cost. They can make us soft and mentally fragile. When we never have to endure hardship, we lose our ability to handle it when real, involuntary hardship inevitably shows up. The Stoics chose voluntary discomfort not as a form of self-punishment, but as a kind of inoculation. By willingly exposing yourself to small, controlled doses of discomfort, you expand your comfort zone and build psychological toughness. As Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Taking a cold shower, fasting for a bit, or pushing through a really hard workout teaches you a vital lesson. You can endure far more than you think. This builds real confidence and a higher tolerance for stress. But this toughness needs to be paired with structure. That's where discipline routines come in. In a world of endless distraction, a structured routine is a fortress for your focus. It cuts down on decision fatigue and protects your energy for what actually matters. It's about intentionally designing your day to support your goals, instead of letting your day be run by the whims of others or your own fleeting impulses. Here's the micro-exercise for this powerful combo, the Keystone Challenge. For 1 week, choose one mild voluntary discomfort to practice each day. It could be taking the last 60 seconds of your shower cold. It could be skipping your morning coffee one day. It could be intentionally leaving your phone in another room for a 2-hour block. The point is to pick something safe but challenging, something that makes your brain say, "Ugh, I don't want to do this," and then doing it anyway. At the same time, add one keystone routine to your schedule. A keystone routine is a high-impact action that tends to trigger other positive behaviors. Pick one block of time, maybe 30 or 60 minutes, and dedicate it to a single high-value activity at the same time every day. This could be a block of deep work on your most important project, a non-negotiable workout, or some quiet time for reflection and journaling. The effect of this combination is profound. The daily act of voluntary discomfort proves to you, on a physical level, that you are not a fragile being who needs constant comfort. It builds willpower. The disciplined routine, in turn, creates momentum. It ensures that, no matter how you feel, you are consistently taking action on what matters most. You're training your mind and body to follow your will, not your fleeting emotions. This forges a deep, practical strength. The strength that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself to do hard things, especially when you don't feel like it. Strategy 5. Evening Stoic Journal plus Measure Backwards. The fifth and final strategy ties everything together and creates a powerful loop of continuous improvement. The Evening Stoic Journal, combined with measuring backwards. For the Stoics, an unexamined life wasn't a life of freedom, it was a life of just drifting. Self-reflection was a vital daily practice. The goal of a Stoic journal isn't just to vent your feelings, but to perform a candid, compassionate review of your day through the lens of your values. Seneca described his own evening practice of looking back on his day and asking himself what faults he had corrected, what virtues he had practiced, and where he could do better. This nightly review is crucial for regulating your emotions and aligning your actions with your intentions. But to stay motivated on this path, it's so important to pair this reflection with the modern concept of measuring backwards. So often, we get discouraged because we fixate on the huge gap between where we are and where we want to be. Measuring backwards simply means you end your reflection by looking at the gains you've already made. You compare yourself today not to your ideal self, but to yourself from yesterday, last week, or last year. This cultivates a growth mindset and gives you the encouragement you need to keep going. So, the micro-exercise here is a simple evening journal with 3 core prompts. Prompt 1. What was in my control today, and what was not? How did I manage my focus? This prompt reinforces the dichotomy of control. It's a simple accounting of where you invested your energy. Prompt 2. Where did I act with virtue today? Where did I fall short? This is your character audit. Did you choose courage over comfort, justice over self-interest, temperance over impulse? Be honest but not judgmental. The goal is awareness, not shame. Prompt 3. What did I learn that I can use to improve tomorrow? This question turns every experience, good or bad, into a lesson. It transforms mistakes from failures into tuition for future wisdom. And finally, to measure backwards, add this one last step. Acknowledge one gain from the day. Maybe the gain was that you held your temper for 5 seconds longer than you usually do. Maybe you finally started that task you'd been dreading. Maybe you simply remembered to be grateful for a quiet moment. This small act of acknowledging progress, no matter how minor, is fuel. It proves to you that you are moving forward. This practice, reviewing control, auditing virtue, extracting lessons, and acknowledging gains, is the engine of personal growth. It ensures that each day is not just lived, but learned from. It creates a positive feedback loop where your inner strength isn't some static state you achieve, but a dynamic quality that you build day by day. Climax, demonstration. Okay, so how does this all come together in the real world? Imagine you've just opened an email with some harsh, unexpected feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The old you might spiral, but the Stoic in training, you, has a toolkit. First, you immediately apply the dichotomy of control. You feel that sting of criticism, but you separate what you can and cannot control. You think, I can't control my colleague's opinion or the harsh way they wrote this, but I can control my response. I will not fire back an angry email. I'll focus on clarifying the feedback and improving the work. Second, you remember your negative visualization practice. You've already rehearsed for moments just like this. You'd imagined getting tough criticism and practiced how you'd respond. You think, if this gets tense in our meeting, I know I can remain calm, listen to understand, and propose concrete next steps. Because you've prepared, the shock is gone, replaced by a readiness to act. Third, you consult your virtuous North Star. What does this moment call for? It calls for courage to own any mistakes, justice to assess the feedback fairly, and wisdom to separate what's useful from what isn't. You choose to act from your values, not your bruised ego. Fourth, you lean on your training in voluntary discomfort and discipline. The discomfort of receiving criticism is something you've gotten used to in smaller, controlled ways. It's unpleasant, but you know you can handle it. You stick to your deep work routine and dedicate your next block of time to methodically addressing the feedback, rather than avoiding it. Finally, that evening, you open your Stoic journal. You reflect on the day. You note that while the feedback was outside your control, your calm response was within it. You see where you acted with the virtue of temperance, and you capture the gain. You learned something important about the project, and more importantly, you handled a difficult situation with a strength you didn't have before. The obstacle became the training. What once would have ruined your entire day has now become a deliberate act of character building. This is the synthesis of Stoic practice. This is how abstract ideas become unshakable inner strength. Conclusion. The journey to inner strength is not a destination. It's a daily practice, built in the small choices we make every single day. So, remember the 5 strategies. First, focus only on what you control, your judgments and actions, and reframe your thoughts about everything else. Second, visualize potential setbacks and mindfully rehearse your virtuous response, stripping them of their power to shock you. Third, let the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance be your guide, grounding your self-worth in your character, not in external praise. Fourth, build resilience by training with voluntary discomfort and create unstoppable momentum with disciplined routines. And fifth, close each day with a Stoic journal to reflect, learn, and measure your gains, creating that powerful loop of continuous improvement. I started this journey feeling overwhelmed and powerless. And while I am far from a perfect Stoic sage, I can tell you that these practices have fundamentally changed my relationship with stress, with failure, and with myself. The world hasn't gotten any less chaotic, but my ability to navigate it with a sense of calm and purpose has grown beyond measure. That is the promise of this philosophy. You have a source of strength within you that will always spring up if you will always look for it. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 strategies resonates with you the most? Share your favorite in the comments below and tell us one small way you plan to apply it this week. Your insights could be the spark that inspires someone else in this community. And if you want to continue this journey into Stoicism and practical philosophy, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos on mindfulness, discipline, and building a resilient mindset. Thank you for watching. Now go out there and be strong.